because Manchester United tonight, Champions League qualification very much on the line before a trip to Liverpool on Sunday. United will qualify tonight only if they beat Bayern Munich at Old Trafford, and if the other Group A game between Galatasaray and Copenhagen ends up in a draw. That is what is at stake. And yesterday, Scott McTominay went some way to saying, look, don't look at our dressing room for anything amiss. Everything's fine in there. We've
had many amazing players over the time, and I feel like now we're at a stage where we've got big characters in the dressing room, where it's not just a case of like some of the other managers where it's been a little bit toxic at times. The boys are firmly behind the manager, and that's the be all and end all. I've said that in many other interviews, and that's the way it will remain to stay. We've got amazing coaching staff as well, so yeah, people can get lost in translation and get carried away with what the players think and what they say behind closed doors. We just want to do well for the football club, and that's as simple as that.
So he said it fairly simply, didn't he? The boys are fairly behind the manager. I think we take it at face value, do we?
Well, I don't think they have the character to have a toxic dressing room. I don't think they have the balls to have it. They certainly don't replicate the character on the pitch. It's one thing suggesting, it's easy, words are easy, aren't they? McTominay's coming out and saying the right thing. His performance on Saturday was abject after his performance earlier on in the week, which was very commendable. I don't disagree with him. I don't think this group of players have the balls or the character to be able to create a toxic dressing room. I just think they're a weak version of what Manchester United require.
Have they got the balls and character to do what is required on the pitch tonight?
Possibly. I mean, Bayern Munich have just been beaten 5-1, so they've obviously got their minds distracted on other things. There's nothing in this game for Bayern Munich, besides Harry Kane coming back to England and perhaps scoring a goal against a team that might have wanted to acquire his services. I wouldn't put it past United to get a spawny outcome. They don't deserve to go through this group. There's nothing about Manchester United's performance in this group that you can say, oh, that's admirable. They got away with one in the home leg against Copenhagen. They've gotten beaten away by Copenhagen. They've gotten beaten by Galatasaray. They got their heads handed to them in the most one-sided 4-3 game that you could possibly imagine in Bayern Munich. And they've got a group of players that, in my view, are not befitting of the people that have gone before at Manchester United. They get more attention than their performances deserve because Man United are the poster boys for the back page of media because they operate with such a level of interest. So I'm not surprised. I absolutely 100% concur with McTominay. They don't have a toxic dressing room because they don't have the characters to create one.
They're going to need character tonight, though, aren't they?
Sure. Depends what Munich do.
Got to find it from somewhere.
If Munich fancy it, and see you later, Man United.
Yeah.
If Munich don't, and they're off their game, and United can be bothered to turn up, and if they put out Rashford, he might fancy this on this evening, and maybe Martial will do us all a favour and turn up in the game, and maybe Fernandes will show us what leadership looks like for 15 seconds. Maguire will defend as he has done in recent weeks and perhaps correct some of the unfairness that his own fans visited on him, his own fans. Then maybe Man United will get through this qualifying group. They don't deserve to, and even the most ardent of Man United fans that will take exception to what I'm saying about their football club this morning are going to find it difficult to disagree. I suppose the argument will be if you get through, you get what you deserve. But they'll have gotten through on the actions of others rather than themselves, perhaps.
I think, Simon, that's a good point you make. I think the most ardent of Manchester United fans can't help but agree with you on that around this time.
I doubt it.
But their eyes don't lie. I mean, what you see, they see. And I'm absolutely with you on that. Is this a more significant week for the players then, Simon, than it is for Ten Hag? Bayern Munich and then Liverpool.
Look, I mean, we keep going around this circle about whether Ten Hag is the right solution and whether you should fire managers and whether you should keep them in position. If you're going in the right direction and the ownership that we question their actual engagement with the day-to-day operation of the football club to know enough beyond what's happening on a Saturday, because sometimes you can make a case that actually the results aren't coming instantaneously, and we in the media will micromanage the outcome and go, vroom, look at that, instantaneously, and then the next thing is, oh, they've done a good result, so we'll move on, and the ship's been corrected, and neither one of those is correct. But with Ten Hag, if there's an inherent belief that he's correcting the malaises of, I really do believe, not because Ole Gunnar Solskjaer dated my girlfriend, as some people like to say, that's the reason why I don't like him.
Is that the reason?
Oh no, of course not. The point is that's what people say because I've got this, because I keep on focusing on, because I think he took the standards to a different place. I think Mourinho took them there as well because he became very dark, but for different reasons. I think Van Gaal was just what Van Gaal was, and David Moyes didn't even get his feet under the table, did he? To be able to create anything.
That's right.
So you look at this and say, if Ten Hag, if the belief system is that he's going in the right direction, he needs to be given more time. I look at it and say, why waste time? If I don't believe that Ten Hag is going to deliver the outcomes. So it's just as commendable to pivot, my favourite word recently, and to redirect quickly if you've got a better alternative. If you haven't got a better alternative, there's nobody out there that can fix this particular malaise. There's no Klopp or Guardiola look like that you can put into your dugout to change the direction.
I don't think anybody could argue, Simon, that somebody out there could do a better job than Ten Hag. It's whether or not United want to part company with him now.
We say that, and again, and then I tell you what, if I went to, well, who? And then we'd start scratching our heads for a second and think, well, who are we talking about? And what would they be doing? And who are they?
Yeah.
You know, do we make a case for Nagelsmann? Well, he's managing the German side in the Euros this year, so perhaps he's out of commission. Look, the challenge is United is a difficult beast to tame. And it doesn't come without a whole raft of opinions, 73,000 fans on a Saturday afternoon, the media that want to focus on Man United dawn till dusk. Yeah. There is, of course, the newsrooms, sports rooms around the world love it when United lose because it's a story. It's less of a story when they win.
Well, I mean, there's United fans messaging now, and if you want to send a message off the back of what Simon said, 81089, you don't think they've got the character in that dressing room to show that it's a toxic dressing room? I don't. You don't think they've got the balls of the character to do it?
I think they can whine and they can cry and they can go and talk about the need to have more support for their mental resilience, and you can have Jadon Sancho that can sit there and saying, I don't like what's happened to me, even though I've replicated it through my entire career. You know, you can have that sort of. That's not toxic. That's just whiny.
There's one of many messages,
mealy-mouthed and feeble-minded.
I'm 100% with Simon. We don't deserve to go through. The players are nowhere near good enough. Simple as. And yet, if it's Ten Hag who's in the conversation as to whether or not he's good enough in the long term, as to whether or not he should be the man in the hot seat at Old Trafford right now, Rio Ferdinand had his own views on that when he spoke to us.
It's not about just the manager. If you sack the manager and bring another manager in now, I reckon we'll still be here in 2 years saying the same thing. The culture at the football club's got to be set and changed. He's been trying to do that with all of the sagas we've seen off the pitch, from taking the armband off of Maguire to the Ronaldo situation for Sancho. I'd give him to the end of this season at least, right? But also within that, a new structure behind the scenes is imminently coming into this football club. I think that can have a real say on either his fortunes at the club, but also if he was to go and somebody else's, because I don't think a manager can come in here on his own and change things. It's been proven. It can't be just the manager all the time. We can't just keep sitting here and going, oh, it's the manager, it's the manager.
But it is the manager all the time.
Yeah.
It is the manager. The players are as good and as bad as you allow them to be. They're not buying bad players. Sometimes they're buying the wrong character, and sometimes they're buying the wrong players at the wrong time. And you've had so many different intellectual capitals that have had the thought processes to be able to, get outcomes. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted Harry Maguire and got him. Jose Mourinho wanted Harry Maguire and didn't get him. So I think you have to say that, with due respect, that these players, whose decision is it? When Rio goes off on one of these little, blame it on the players mentalities. If you blame it on the players, it'd be redirecting back to the manager, because now it's the current vogue to have the courage to say it's actually the players. Yeah. Whose decision is it to allow Garnacho or Rashford to not do what their jobs are, which is to track back and work hard for the team? Whose decision is that to tolerate that? Whose decision is not to deal with it? Because, these are big characters. You telling me they haven't got bigger characters in Man City's dressing room? You're telling me that the incumbent champions of English football that are walking around cock of the walk, that think they're the best thing since sliced bread, aren't going to have to take management, aren't going to have to take strong directional control from the leader of the football club, which is the manager. Well, of course it's the manager.
United fans hanging on your every word this morning. Gaz, lifelong United fan. I hate it when Simon is right about my beloved club, but he is, and that is a fact. There's Gary, Manchester United fan. I agree 100% with Simon. If United go through, it is not deserved. God only knows what United side turns up this evening. We just do not know. Wow. United will qualify if they beat Bayern at Old Trafford, and the other Group A game between Galatasaray and Copenhagen ends in a draw. How confident are you that United go through? And even if they did, what's the point in your mind? 81089, or give us a call, 03717 223344. Graeme is a Manchester United fan who I think very much concurs with your view, Simon, about the United players going into this one tonight, win or bust against Bayern Munich. Graeme, good morning. What's your take on it all?
Morning, guys. Simon loves Simon Jordan because he'll sprout an opinion, and if he's right or wrong, he'll stand by it and defend it. But he's absolutely right that we've got a team of players who just lack gumption. Two vital away games in the Champions League. You have to win them. You're 2 goals up in both of them and don't come away with 3 points. How is that in terms of a game management issue? even possible for a club that has any aspiration to be considered top draw. It's not possible. It isn't possible. It could happen once a season. You could be 2 up and get done. Yeah, fine. That happens to everybody. But 2 games on the spin, you need to win them both. And we're not talking about Real Madrid, and we're not talking about Bayern Munich. We're talking about, with respect, Copenhagen and Galatasaray. Good sides in their own right.
Yes, yeah.
But really?
Did you not like what you heard from Scott McTominay, though, Graeme? That maybe it was toxic in the past before Ten Hag, but not now.
To be honest, I've stopped listening to football players. It's unlike Simon, none of them can have an opinion, can they? They have to sit there and chat away and say the same old stuff. It is what it is. It's like watching the news. You just go, yeah, really, move on. It's noise to fill a space. And well done, Scott. You said all the right things. What's he going to say? Yeah, the manager's an idiot. He's picked me. He's a fool because I'm inconsistent. He's not going to say that, is he?
You've got Simon laughing here, Graeme. Graeme, before you go, mate, we like your points. Where do you stand on this? Is it a more significant week for the Manchester United players than it is for Ten Hag?
I think the players have proven again and again that, like I said, they just lack gumption. So if anything bad during the game happens, if they lose control or lose a goal cheaply through a goalkeeper mistake or something else, they don't lack the to get back into it. And I fear, because Liverpool and the history of that match means that if they get to stab us in the neck, they will rip the throat open because they can, and they'll enjoy it. And I feel really sorry for Ten Hag, because I don't know of any manager who's had to come into a club and deal with Ronaldo, who's a walking ego, and had to deal with 2 sex scandals from Greenwood and Anthony. Then he's got Sancho. I mean, the so-called or supposed amassed talent in those 4 players, and he's had no choice but to just blow them off in any say. He can't do anything else with them.
Wow.
So, get out and move. How do you lose that amount of talent? Because psychologically those players have serious issues that aren't about football.
Graeme, you'll notice we kept you on a fair bit there, mate, because you were making some points. You were thinking very carefully about what you were saying. You wanted to get your point over. We appreciate it, Graeme. Thank you so much for that. He didn't miss, did he?
No, a lot of what he said was right. I mean, obviously, one would say that the recruitment processes of football clubs need to try and dig a bit deeper into evaluating what kind of player that you're signing. The conflict with Sancho is based upon a player that has behaved in a certain way, feels that he's been victimised by a manager, yet that manager, the same manager that sent him off somewhere to look after him in Holland the previous year. You could say that perhaps recruitment needs to look deeper into the character of these players. You can't legislate for Greenwood's behaviour. You can't legislate for Anthony's, but you can get some indication of what people are like.
Yeah.
But he's right. I mean, he's making the same argument as me, probably more versed in what Man United are doing on a day-to-day basis because it's his club. But the gumption and the state, perhaps we shouldn't blame these players. Perhaps they just simply don't have the character, and it comes down to the next generation of players that are bought need to be looked at with a stronger view of what kind of, because you get players in the Premier League, they can all play technically. It's about the ones that can actually stand up to adversity. They're all great when it's going their way. It's when adversity comes knocking, and that's the point that Graeme was making, the point that I've made, which is about their lack of substance.
And the point that Rio Ferdinand made, we can't keep sacking managers. I mean, can a football club really get what you apparently never had, sacking fatigue?
Oh, do you know, I did really, because it's quite debilitating to keep hiring managers, waste your time, invest your time in getting somebody in the door that spins you a yarn, turns out to be a pup, and you've got to drop kick him out the door, pay him to go, and then bring somebody else in to spin the same yarn. And that's my fault for interviewing people, failing to get from them what I saw in the interview, and then having to replace them.
See, you were a pushover.
Well, I just, again, you make mistakes and you look at them, and the irony of it is that the ones that I worked with for periods of time were moderately. Dowie was there for 2.5 years, Neil Warnock was there for 3 years, so I must have been pretty busy for the other 5 years getting rid of 6 or 7 managers. But it's not sacking fatigue. You've got to make decisions. That I've never maintained this view, and having been in the industry for 10, 11 years, having had a father that was a footballer, right, I never maintained this nonsense that you have to keep people in a job just because stability is the order of the day and you need to give people time. In any other walk of life, And everything involves the component part, which is human beings doing a job and doing it well. Whether it's in the IT industry, whether it's in retail, every business is centered in its personnel. So if you've got something, you start here, right, and in a year's time, it's still there. You can't be turning around and saying, well, actually, you haven't moved the dial. It's gotten no better. It's the same as it was. It's the same problems, the same malaise. We're going around in the same ever-decreasing circle. But the football mafia will have you believe that actually you need to give people more and more time. What, so they can make the same mistakes, make it worse, and do it for longer? Is that what your argument is? But if you can see as an owner and you're close enough to it, or your people that you've designated are close enough to see that even if it isn't absolutely transparent on the pitch, that the green shoots behind the scenes are there, then that's why you give people time. In fact, 18 months' time, if you're running a bank and this bank is just as bad as it was 18 months previously, the chief executive would get his walking papers.
Right.
And why is it any different in football?
Sure.
Oh, because it's not the way it works, because football people get insulated against everyone else's mistakes.
Sure.
I.e. their own.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.